All right. That was about the quickest switch over I've ever done. We are live on Linger Longer. It is currently or where am I at? February 12th, 2025. And we just finished our first ever What Do You Think Wednesday, a creation of our second herald, Jenny Gage, who is hopefully resting up her voice. I think I'll probably get a text here from a minute saying that she wants to message me her story about that, about anxiety. That's so cool. Well, it's not cool. Anxiety ain't cool. So, yeah, you guys gathering up in the chat there. While you're gathering up in the chat, I will throw a StreamYard link in the comments in case anybody wants to join us. You know, open mic night here at the Church of Korihor. You just take that link and you put it in your browser, and everybody can join. Good. Hey, Modern Ape, Lisa, thank you, man. Anxiety does suck, but it's also, it's nice for me to be able to think of it as the impetus for creativity. I think that's what I really like about it, about what Rollo May had to say. I had some prepared images and things that I was going to show and didn't do. I think I'll do that in case, people feel like they want to wander in and join into the StreamYard live with us. But I thought I'd share some things that I've been thinking about and working on. You guys know I've been writing a new book lately, and it's a sermon. It's a long ass sermon that has a lot to do with art history. As you guys know, I'm a painter in addition to my painting work. And I thought I would share some really cool things I've discovered in writing my book, All My Prophets Paint. I'd love to know what women think about that title. It will break my heart if I have to change it, but tell me anyways. Just tell me anyways. But I love that title so much. But so far, everybody I've told about it. All my prophets paint basically takes my four gates idea that I took from my man. Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Man, time is the enemy here. I tell you what. Um, but basically, I before I became before I started to paint, I was a filmmaker, well, failed filmmaker, video producer by trade, and but I've always wanted to paint, and so I started painting last year. And I don't have a lot of finished canvases, but I got a few. As a matter of fact, I don't have any on canvas. I paint on MDF, and that's for a reason I get into in the book. But I've learned so much more. All my life I've been following painters and the stories of painters. Like especially, I love me some stories about Vincent Van Gogh, who I do say Vincent Van Gogh in mixed company. Sometimes I do just call him Vincent Van Gogh or just Vincent. I love to tell stories about Zhuzla Bekshinsky, who is my favorite surrealist. I love to tell stories about Da Vinci or Caravaggio. Caravaggio was such a character, man. All these artists, these painters, with such incredible, weird characters, and the story of how the paints and the pigments came to be is so fascinating. How the and the stories of how these painters' lives, because it's like, if you've ever painted, it is like the most honest thing that you could do, really, especially when you're not doing it on commission, when you are doing it just from your creative space, what you want to put, the mark you want to put on the world, and brush strokes, that's important. What kind of paints you use, that's important. What kind of medium, what kind of subject, all of that is important, yes. But at the end of the day, none of it is as important as, do you render an image? Is there an image? And is that image from inside of you? So that's why I say all my prophets paint, because these people, they are in touch with their inner world, and it makes me jealous. I want to express myself the way, and I want that inner world to express. And so I thought I'd share this with you guys. I found it today. I'm kind of freaked out about it. Come to find this out, this may look familiar to you. This is Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. And but as you can see, in a different format than you used to seeing it. So Vincent used to paint when he would paint a painting. After he was done, he would draw a sketch. Vincent actually originally went into the ministry like his father. He was studying to become a minister. And he hated it, got bored with the books and the stuffiness and the old-fashioned ideas of, seminary. And so he couldn't stick with it for very long. He had sort of a love-hate relationship with his father anyway. His brother Theo did also, of course. And it was his brother Theo who convinced him, Vincent, you should paint. We can make you a success in the art world, because the Van Goghs, they came from a line of, of art dealers. And so he's like, we can get your work into galleries, and we can start making money. But Vincent wasn't really much of a painter when he was studying at seminary. He was mainly a sketch artist. But Theo had convinced me. It's like, yeah, but that the best painters are all sketchers. Oh my goodness, it's Megan Connor. You got done with your other show, huh? I don't even know who Joe Schmo is. What show that is? So I thought you were talking to me the other day. I'm like, is she talking to me? Or am I supposed to have Megan on the show? I hope so, but I kind of already booked with Jenny. But that's cool. So yeah, but so anyways, he told him, the best painters are sketch artists. That, by the way, that varies by. Oh, cool. That varies by who you talk to. But yes, during that time period in the late 19th century, it was pretty well established that the sketch artists were the best painters. And so Vincent, he went out and he learned how to paint, and his early paintings don't look anything like Vincent. He really, whoa, good job, Megan. He worked his butt off in a very different look and style, and very similar to his drawings from his early years. As he started to paint, he would draw an image over and over again. He would do repetitions. And then when he had the muscle memory of the feel of what he was doing, his studies on it, then he would paint it. And in his unique style that he created, he took the pointillism of the Impressionists, right? Making stippled art that would render quickly, and that you could render alla prima, meaning that you, instead of mixing the colors, mixing the colors and trying to blend them on the canvas between the palette and the canvas, you would take the more or less the raw colors, mix them as little as possible, and then stipple them to keep the colors vibrant. And then if the white of the canvas showed through, or whatever you used to prime the canvas showed through, then great. Then awesome, whatever. That became part of the image too. And then laying colors next to each other, very much like how 4-color printing works now. If you've ever, you take like a color photograph printed in a textbook, and you get up real close to it, and you can see the colors that you're looking at are not the colors at all. This brown is actually a green and a red and a yellow. Hey, Jules. And they're all just laid next to each other, so that when you're looking at it far away, you get brown, but it's actually not brown at all. And so it's like, that was, when he took the Impressionists style and rendered it his own, really took it to himself and said, yeah, except that you guys paint wild things that are just going in any which direction. I want to take thick dabs of paint, thick strokes of paint in, consistent, what's the word I'm looking for? Hashes. And then create this image. It creates a much bolder image, But it's like, okay, but well, that was certainly true about Steve Jobs. But he took that idea, and the other artists would be like, well, as I understand it, anyways, I don't know that there's any letters or anything exactly about this, but like the criticism was, yeah, but you lay it too thick, Vincent. It'll take forever to dry. And that was a major concern, of course, painting it entirely in oils. Yeah. Now I'm thinking specifically of hashes. Streaks is all right. I mean, the technical term, I think it would have to be brushstrokes, but I love it. I mean, I love Vincent. But the point here is, Vincent actually made sketches of his paintings while they were drying, so that he could send them to Theo, who of course was the dealer, so that he could start talking up to people. Oh, look, you have to envision it, but here is this drawing, and this drawing had been seen in photographs. Like people had seen photographs of it for a long time, but when war broke out in Europe, it went missing. It was in a German, I think. German museum or a German gallery, and it disappeared. And it had been presumed destroyed, when the big H man started stealing everybody's art, and then figured it either has been hidden away so well that we'll never find it, or it's been destroyed or something. But what had actually happened was that a Soviet soldier had seen it on the floor of a gallery that they had raided, and that while they were marching a bunch of deserters back into the Soviet Union, and they had discovered in this gallery, while they were basically raiding it, spoiling it for war, they discovered that there was this wardrobe, and somebody haphazardly had thrown a whole bunch of art behind this wardrobe, and they had put hundreds of paintings and thousands of drawings and things that, just like as the army was coming or whatever, they're just like, hide all of this because the Nazis want it. They wanted the art as much as they wanted anything else. And so it's like, hide all of it. And they had hidden it behind this bureau. Well, the Soviet soldiers found the bureau, and all of these soldiers are tearing at each other to get these paintings that are like rolled up. They've been taken off of their stretching frames. They've been like rolled up and stored behind this thing, or folded, or just kind of laid there. And this one soldier who had studied architecture, so had studied liberal arts, was looking down at the floor and saw this drawing on the floor, and he's like, "Holy crap! That's Vincent's study of Starry Night." And he just kind of slyly slipped down there and just kind of grabbed it and threw it into his luggage and took it back to the Soviet Union. And the thing that's interesting is that all these paintings are made so that they can be stretched. Technically, you could take them off the stretching frame and carefully roll them, but you're basically low-key destroying the image as you do it. So it has to be done super carefully, and then you got to take it right back out and put it right back on the frame, or it'll crack and destroy. And it was gone. All these paintings were just destroyed. And this one guy, who had studied architecture at school, he had carefully preserved these drawings, and he had this painting or this sketch of Vincent's. And so he kept that for years and years and years. The Soviet Union locked it away inside of a vault. Eventually, this collector who's trying to recollect all of the missing pieces, he's going through all the stories of people say, "Oh yeah, I've seen the piece that was from that gallery. So-and-so had it, or it's over here and it's over there." They were like all destroyed. They were just trashed. And that's when somebody said, "Oh, but that Starry Night, Vincent's sketch for Starry Night, yeah, that's in a vault, they say, out in the Soviet Union." And so he goes to this vault and he's like, "I heard you have a bunch of these these drawings and things. Then and they're like, we don't know what you're talking about, because they don't want to be accused of having stolen art. And and he's like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. Thank you, guy. Thanks, Stephen. Uh, and he's like, well, okay, but I heard that you have this one other piece. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's the Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. We don't have the Starry Night. Oh no, it's maybe a sketch. And he and the curator, who they're like, they both know that the sketch is one of the stolen items. But the guy's like, yeah, we might have that one piece. And so he's like, oh, I might want to see it. And I actually have it here. This picture that you're looking at right now is a picture that guy took when he went in to see that painting. It's the only existing copy of it with this kind of detail. And the thing that's interesting about it is that this was back in the 1990s, I want to say, or 1980s. I don't know the dates that well. I just learned about this today. Is that all the other photographs that existed of this previously were not very high quality, and they were all in black and white. So everybody assumed that they were in like charcoals, or they were in ink, in black ink. But I don't know if you can tell by looking at it, it's not. It's black and brown and blue, and nobody knew that until they got this photo. Until this guy got in and got a color photograph. And turns out that Vincent had gone through to help his brother get a better feel for the color of the piece, had used his pointillism techniques to render the image so that it had different tones using color. And nobody knew that before this. I just think that's just such a fascinating thing. That in Vincent's mind, this thing had a form that was independent of color, but that could be rendered in different colors to have the same effect to rendering his mind. And that for me is what I feel like Rollo May was really getting at, was that the image is not the rendering. The image is in the mind. It is the inner world of the painter. And I love that. And for me, it's like, oh, that so resonates for me. Why one of the best things I have ever done for my mental health was, especially since having to deal with the disappointment of failing at filmmaking, was to say, if I could make art by myself with my hands in my room, in my studio, I would do that. But I'm not a particularly talented sketch artist. And so I'm like, but I bet and I'm not a very good photographer, frankly. I do all right. But then I was like, but if I could paint, I would paint. And so I said, you know what? Nobody lives forever. And I never really tried. I've always said I wanted to try it. Now I don't have any reason not to. And I started to paint last year. And now all of these stories I've been collecting all these years, thinking that even applies to me in my craft, in my medium of cinematography, right? Yeah, even in cinematography, we have a phrase called every frame a Rembrandt, and every high-minded film, elitist, film snobs, cinema snobs, we all have our different definitions of it. I can't tell you how many times I have to explain to people, it's because Rembrandt would start from the shadows, and that's how we light. Everybody's got their story. Everybody's got their version. There's even a book called Every Frame of Rembrandt, but it's all about where did this phrase come from, that we paint every frame of film like a Rembrandt. Anyway, so I'm like, man, if I painted, I'd probably paint like Rembrandt. Lo and behold, I don't paint like Rembrandt at all. I light like a Rembrandt just fine. Don't paint like Rembrandt at all. But I thought I would show you something here. Okay, I had another screen here. Goodbye. I'm still getting used to this StreamYard. Another one. Image. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. Here we go. Check this out. This is a woman who was, I think she's one of the curators there at the museum. So they propped it up so that he could take a photograph so that you could see it, which is nice, right? You get to get a sense of the scale. Oh, I'm not even showing it. I'm not even showing it, am I? Oh, yes, I am. I'm in the wrong StreamYard there. Okay, yeah. I mean, just to get a little sense of the scale of this piece, this was a big drawing for what it was. I mean, it's almost a one-to-one drawing, frankly, of the actual painting. So it's like that's what that you can see how for the marketing value, that's what Vincent would want his brother to have because hey, Diamond Dave, because he would have had to send it to he couldn't send him the painting because it was still drying. Frankly, they say, and you know, it's true almost about just about every painting from this era, but they say that some of Van Gogh's paintings are still drying. But I mean, technically, they're all drying. Um, so, anyways, I thought that was fun to share. I thought I'd share a couple of other things with you guys if you guys are cool, if you guys are into it. Let me try to share another one here. Share screen. This other one, this one will look a little more familiar to you. Okay. I just want to talk about my love for this painting. I don't know that this is my favorite, honestly. But of course, like most people, I was acquainted with The Starry Night when I was a boy, and I loved it. I didn't know until I started painting the rest of the stories. I'd always heard the story, you guys probably have heard it too, that Vincent would go out at night with his hat that had candles on it, the wide brim hat with the candles on it so that he could paint, you know, and see his canvas while also looking up at the stars. There are also stories that maybe his, you know, the swirling images of the light around the figures in the sky may have been a byproduct of syphilis or of his epilepsy. The prevailing theory, as I understand it, is actually it's not his epilepsy. It actually was the antipsychotic that they gave him. Jules knows these terms, and even we even had this conversation in our last life. The anti-hallucinogens, anyway, that he would they gave him, or not anti-hallucinogens, sorry, the anti-epileptics that they would give him to help him stave off seizures, and that the effect of those actually is more likely to have caused, you know, his vision to change in the way that he saw light in the night sky. Who knows what it is? He didn't really give us that much detail in his letters, even though we have one of the reasons why Vincent actually eventually became famous is because we have his letters to Theo and his letters to his sister and his letters to his parents and his letters to his sister-in-law, who ends up being the most pivotal point of the story. If you don't know, Theo's wife, Jo, she kept all of Vincent's letters. She was a Vincent fanatic, even when in a day when Vincent wasn't very popular. People didn't really care for his work. They thought it was weird. And then she took, and her husband was the one trying to market all of his paintings. You know, they would sell, and he would get them into galleries and into shows and things, and, you know, into exhibits, and they would sell. But Vincent never reached fame in his life, and he passed away, I think, at the age of like 37, 38. And so, you know, and in the brief period of time that he was painting, it was only painting better part of a decade, really. They say he may have made more images than any artist in history. One estimate that I saw says that Vincent may have made as many as 2,000 images. And at the end of his life, he was actually rendering his mental acuity was so in and out that he had to speed up his process so that he didn't leave his paintings unfinished. And so he got even faster and faster and faster and faster and faster at making his images, to where the last year of his life or so, he made so many images that he had to have been, they estimate he had to have been producing about 2 a day. So basically, like get up in the morning, go out and paint, have a nervous breakdown by lunch, go back out and with a clean canvas, paint another one. I mean, that was how much this mind was casting these images out into the world. And his later stuff, frankly, was some of his best. So, I mean, it's just such a beautiful story for such a sad ending. If you don't know, at the end of his life, Vincent took a pistol to his chest and shot himself and missed his heart, because it turns out it's actually kind of hard to do. There's a reason why people don't usually do it that way. And missed his heart and got the ball lodged down in his hip and in the inside of his pelvis. And without going into any, you can imagine the ball ripped through, did some damage on the way down. So, and really what he died of was infection. And his brother, who was in, Theo lived in Paris, and he had sent Vincent down to Auvers, where the sky was more blue, and because people would say the sky in Auvers is blue unlike any other place in the world. And Vincent had always wanted to go there and paint there. He said, "We'll get you a room. We'll get you a room there." It gets him away from Paul Gauguin, which is a whole other part of that story. It gets him away from that bloody Paul Gauguin who's driving him nuts, who was the one who actually drove. They say it's his friendship and the neglect of Paul Gauguin that actually drove Vincent to take a razor to his ear. And so he's like, it gets him away from that Paul Gauguin, and it gets him to get out into the country, fresh air, blue sky. But Vincent, his epilepsy had gotten bad. And with it, his depression had gotten worse. And by the end of it, he couldn't keep his head straight about anything, frankly. So, anyways, but yeah, I'm not going to keep going with that because we're doing this story instead. But anyways, suffice it to say, I've been doing a lot of catching up and checking up on the new discoveries about Vincent's work. The interesting things to know about Starry Night, though, this maybe my cursor will show it if I'm actually on that tab. If you see, of course, out in the front, the prominent figure in the painting is this pair of cypress trees, and Vincent wrote about these cypress trees because they were the trees he figured in another painting. Vincent was very connected to cypress trees. He wanted cypress trees, especially these ones, to become his new sunflowers. When he was young, some of his better works. Cool, Joey. Oh, that's cool. Haha, cool. I'd love to see your work, Joey. So those trees are not there. And they're over on another side. What this window, this scene, that as Vincent describes it, is through the bars of the window in the asylum where he was staying after he cut his ear off, and they gave him a studio downstairs. He couldn't see the scene from downstairs. He could but they wouldn't let him paint in his room upstairs. So basically, Starry Night was painted by memory. And so he would sketch from his room, and then he would go down and he would paint in the studio later. So then he would take these figures and he would add them in, like the cypress trees. And if you look, you'll see this church with the steeple reaching up into the night sky. They think that may be a church from his boyhood in Holland, but they don't know. And so, frankly, it's a curious thing why Vincent decided to add a church and really to add this whole hamlet into the scene, given that there is no such hamlet there. Not that's visible from the window. They know the room that he was in. And there was no such place. And so it's assumed that he actually, especially with the style of the buildings, that he probably incorporated buildings from his boyhood in Holland, and including this church with this awkwardly long steeple reaching up into the sky. And that, which seems to be a theme in Starry Night that gets kind of overlooked when you look at the shapes of the lights, and are these galaxies moving through the image, or is it wind, or is it what's it supposed to be indicative of? It's of course a thing that people have been talking about for the better part of a century now, over a century really. And then you have this moon. Of course, everybody, that probably is the thing that probably draws people's eye the most. But curiously, one of the things I've always found very striking about the cypress trees is, and knowing that Vincent had studied at seminary, is how reminiscent it is to the concept of the pillar of fire. The children of Israel led by the pillar of fire. I don't know that that's what he meant by it, but just it's the first thing that came to my mind, is that he painted very much unlike how he renders the same image in his cypress trees painting. Cypresses, I think it's called technically. I'm not sure what it would have been in French or in Dutch. But it looks very different in this image, and it has a very flame quality to it. And there was a lot in his letters at that time about reaching out to God and about his fears. I'll just share a little bit of that while because we have his letters from the asylum. Sorry, I'm just making sure I don't have emergencies here. Oh, thank you. Wife left me dinner. Interesting. Okay. All right, just checking. Sorry. So here is you guys don't see this. Well, it doesn't matter. You won't be able to read it from there anyways. I'll just read it to you. Okay. It's been really curious. These are some amazing little snippets. I was saying a little bit about this before. Vincent wasn't well known in his life. So they got the reason he became well known was that Joe, Theo's wife, turns out to have been a better marketer than Theo, who was an attorney really. And she took all of their letters, and the thing is, just like that drawing that I showed you earlier, so that Theo could get an idea of what he was working on and the themes of what he was working on, so they could sell it. I think that's why he did it. Vincent would sketch the paintings in his letters, and Joe published the letters. And as people poured over the letters, these interactions, the book was the interesting thing, was this book of letters between these two brothers, and talking about the struggle of, Vincent's struggle and his fear of falling into madness, of losing his mind. And it was like a fascinating picture of the life between the love that these two brothers had. They get candid, frankly, right? There's a point in there where Vincent tells his brother Theo how excited he is that he is impotent, which is not a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's different in Dutch society. Any Dutch people out there know? Dutch men just super proud about not being able to get it up. I don't know. But Vincent was super excited about it because he bragged to Theo. He's like, everybody knows that as soon as an artist can't maintain an erection, that's when his best work comes out, because he's not distracted. It's like, whoo, intimate. Okay. 37 years old, which of course leads to all other kinds of questions about Vincent. So it was interesting. Oh, cool. That's all right. I did some of that. Not for long. I mostly destroyed my art that I don't want people to see. Then when I got to feeling like I really loved it, I started putting it in every video. Yes, by the way, I'm surprised how many people ask me this. I guess I don't make it clear enough. Yes, I painted every painting there, and I love them all. Uh, this is a snippet from one of these letters. How much of this do you want to hear? This is Vincent to Theo. There's one person here. This is from the asylum in Saint Paul in Remy. There's one person here who has been shouting and always talking like me for a fortnight. He thinks he hears voices and words in the echo of the corridors, probably because the auditory nerve is sick and sensitive. And with me, it was both the sight and the hearing at the same time, which, according to what Ray said one day, is usual at the beginning of epilepsy. So it's curious. I mean, he is describing how he would have hallucinations as he would get closer to a seizure. Now that, or at least aberrations in his vision or auditory symptoms. Now the shock had been such that it disgusted me even to move, and nothing would have been so agreeable to me as never to wake up again. At present, this horror of life is already less pronounced, and the melancholy less acute. But I still have absolutely no will, hardly any desires or none, and everything that has to do with ordinary life, the desire, for example, to see friends again, about whom I think, however, almost nil. That's why I'm not yet at the point where I ought to leave here soon. I would still have melancholy for everything. And it's even only in these very last days that the repulsion for life has changed quite radically. There's still a way to go from there to will and action. And that becomes a real big theme in the letters between them. Uh, then he tells, I love this. Then he's talking to Theo. He says, "It's a shame that you yourself are still condemned to Paris and that you never see the countryside other than that around Paris." Here he is, he's in an asylum, and he feels bad for his brother for being in Paris. Theo can leave Paris anytime he wants. I love these letters. It's an interesting study to look at how these artists, um, not just how they render the image, which of course is an interesting, fascinating story in itself, but how they um, cope with anxiety, and really that it became a coping mechanism. So yeah, and then I get into the colors, which is a story in and of itself. That moon, that yellow crescent moon of Starry Night, that Starry Night's really notorious for. That moon was painted with Indian yellow, which is a color that has a very controversial story, and as they all do, as many of them do. There are paints, colors that have names. They have the names that they had in like the 19th and 18th centuries, and earlier in some cases. And then they'll have different, what's the word I'm thinking of? They'll have different words added into it. They'll have like the word hue and added into it, which means that it's a synthesized color that they've rendered. They've used different pigments to render that color, to match it to that color, but the color itself is not the original color, because the original color, the tints that they would use have since been banned. And one of the more interesting things about that, so like for example, with Indian yellow, nobody really knew for sure. Everybody figured it came from India. Okay, the story started to circulate, and by the way, they're not certain that this is true now, but people were very convinced of it 100 years ago, that this color, Indian yellow, had been made when you broke it up, because the way they would do is you would get the oils, which is linseed oil, and you would get linseed oil. You'd put it on a mixing pallet, and then you would get these usually like a ball of powdered tint. You would flake off some of the powder into the linseed oil and then mix it up, and that's how you would mix your paints. And so you could mix the paints, any thickness, any consistency that you liked. And then from there, people would sometimes put them into tubes. And it wasn't until later that Winsor Newton really, the company Winsor Newton out of England, really pioneered selling the paints in the actual tubes already pre-mixed. But even then, back then, like if you were a real painter, you made your own paint, right? But people would notice when they would make Indian yellow out of the balls of pigment. You would buy the ball, you'd buy it by the ball, and you would flake it off. That had a very acrid smell to it, kind of foul smell to it. But the colors, such as brilliant gold, orangish yellow, right? That somebody started to say it's distinctly like the smell of urine, like a pungent smell of urine. And the story goes that that was for good reason, because it was made from cows, from cow piss. And that that in India, where people generally didn't eat the cows, right? Because they're Hindu. They had cows that would wander, bulls that would wander into mango patches and eat the leaves off mango trees, and the mango leaves would cause their urine to turn that color. They would collect that powder it, dehydrate it, and that's what the Indian yellow pigment was. Now, because that story started to circulate, the British government actually sent somebody to validate that was how they made it, and under the premise that they were going to ban the import and sale of Indian yellow throughout Europe, at least in England. If that proved to be true, that person came back and said, "Yeah, I went to the town, I saw the cows. It's true. They're making this paint tint, this pigment out of cow urine, and they're forcing these cows to live a life where they are not healthy. They are." They bellow in pain because this is not their natural diet, and they're eating these mango leaves. And for the sake of the animals, supposedly, Great Britain, outlawed Indian yellow, and before long, you couldn't buy it anywhere hardly. And so there's only a handful of paintings that are said to have been painted with this cow piss, and Starry Night's one of them. And of course, once they banned it, then everybody stopped using it. Now you can get Indian yellow hue, and get what is supposedly the same stuff, but it looks exactly the same. Winsor Newton makes one, and it's fine. It's fine. Not nearly as interesting for me now as the story of Prussian blue, but we don't have time to get into that. That gets into my boy Beksinski. Zdzisław Beksinski, and his interesting history. So yeah, I love me. Normally I do so much stories about science and the history of the discovery of, science and astronomy and things like that. And I do love me some of that. And I'll go into World War II history and stuff. But I have a real passion for the for the story of the painters, of the great masters. So I've been enjoying it, working on this book. I hope I get it done soon. Basically, those of you who don't know, the plan is at current that the heralds, rather than living off of and earning stipends and or paying for travel and stuff, because we got big plans for the Church of Korihor, guys. Rather than having us operate off of donations from the members or contributors at korihor.org, the plan is that we will sell books and merchandise and other things that people can enjoy. and that people would buy anyways, including audiobooks and books that will sell to the general public, not just to members of the church. Yeah. Oh, sure. That's cool, Debbie. That's interesting. Oh, I didn't know that about hats, making hats. I knew that about leather, that they used urine for it. They say that, there's even a song apparently about how they made black powder using urine. And there was a song I heard a guy sing once. It was like so weird. It's like the weirdest history to me. It's like they basically would compost with urine, and that's how they would make gunpowder. And when you couldn't get, like, I guess it's like when you couldn't get a natural source of saltpeter. I don't know. Somebody out there who's a chemist or a gunsmith will know. But they have this song that they would sing about how, I defeated my enemy at such and such with the with the what's a clean word? I don't know what the words were. Basically, with the urine from your sister, or with the urine from your mother, or the urine from your girlfriend, or whatever. I don't know why it's always the women. Maybe that's supposed to be an insult, or maybe women. I don't know why, but the song is about how you use the urine from all the women in your life to go out and defeat your enemy. And it was like the weirdest song I ever heard. This guy singing as he's demonstrating how he basically composts organic material with urine to make black powder. You can become a contributor to the Church of Korihor by going to korihor.org. And then clicking on any of the main tabs. I don't make it very easy, actually, from the front website. If you click on Take the Oath of Reason, the link at the bottom of the page of conversion, so korihor.org/conversion, will take you to become a contributor. So you don't actually convert to the Church of Korihor until you take the Oath of Reason. But the first, which is from inside the system, you can fill out the form and upload a video of you taking the Oath of Reason. Or once you filled out the form, you show up to one of our Linger Longers and say, I want to take the Oath of Reason, and hop in the StreamYard, and we'll do it right here live in front of everybody. So that's how we do it. But anybody can become a contributor. Oh yeah, I could add the link. Here, let me see if I can type it up from memory and get it right. Boop boop. korihor.org/conversion. I'm gonna copy that and try it myself. Actually, let's put the W's in there. So we ask people to give $2 a month in the when they become a contributor. That's how you become a contributor. But you can also donate to the church if you want to make donations to any of our missions, including to our video promotion budget, which is you can get. Let me just make sure that link works before I try that. Yep. We're still working on some of these pages, you guys. We are a church that's only barely 2 months old. Well, we're still a baby. We're still figuring some things out. Donation? Is that right? No, donate it would be. /donate. Hold on. I look like an idiot. There you go. So this is the link to go to our donate page. Do not donate. Do not click on the button to donate to Rapture Southern California. It doesn't work yet. Or I think it just goes to one of the other donations. When you click on a donation link, unlike the contributors, the contributor thing, that just processes through our website processor, which is Wix. No way around that, frankly. We just got to use it. I don't like using Wix because they charge us fees, and it just seems silly. I mean, it's like we're just a little tiny organization. You don't have to charge us, it isn't that much. But when you click on any of the donate buttons at the korihor.org/donate, you're going to see that comes up to a separate page that's powered by Zeffy, Zeffy. Basically, when you make a donation, you're going to want to check down before you click pay process, to pay the fee, to make sure that you you have opted in to paying for a donation to Zeffy. What basically happens is that Zeffy covers all of the costs, so that the whatever amount you agree to donate to us, we get 100 pennies of every dollar that you donate. That additional charge that you can opt into, that can kind of cleverly sneak in at the end when you pay your processor, when you click process, you can delete that. That's why it's optional, but you kind of have to like click it off of there. So you just want to make sure, if you don't want to pay that fee, that additional fee is a donation to Zeffy. The reason why they're able to do that is because people give them donations to cover the costs of all the nonprofits that are there, signed up with them. So if you want to give a donation to Zeffy, that's wonderful, and we're very appreciative of Zeffy. So that's a nice thing to do. But they add a small percentage on there for themselves that covers all the payment processing fees, but it's optional. You don't have to pay it. So just want everybody to know that, because we do love us some Zeffy. I mean, I think this is one of the better decisions that I've made. I said it when I first, if you guys go to, here, why don't I just pull it up on the screen? Thank you, Debbie. Let me just share this screen with you. Some cool things that you can do, you can check out at the Church of Korihor. So this is the main screen of the Church of Korihor. If you click on this button, you can see our most recent update video for our blanket drive. That blanket drive, we have already collected and distributed over 100 blankets that I have personally taken out to the streets and put and wrapped up people out on the streets, and mainly at the churches where my friend Carl does all night movie nights. His organization is called Second and Second. If you guys want to go and check them out, they're doing great work. It's an indigenous owned operation, nonprofit operation. Check them out, Second and Second. And they do all night movie nights at these churches, so that they can allow people into churches when it's a code blue. It's all kinds of complicated politics just to let people into a church to sleep on the floor, when it's cold enough to freeze the water in your veins. So what this organization does is they open up the doors and they say it's all night movie night, and we can invite anybody that we want, and then nobody gets in their way. And so they go into the library, because these churches have like these DVD borrowing libraries, and they just got normal videos in there. It's so funny. I told this story. I'm going to tell it again. I was there volunteering. I volunteered twice there, and you can sign up to do 2-hour shifts at these two churches in Salt Lake. One is St. Mark's Cathedral, an Episcopal church, and the other one is First United Methodist. And I've only done St. Mark's, but I'm like volunteering there. It's 2:00 in the morning. 2:00 in the morning. I'm done. I'm tired. I stayed for an extra half hour to an hour because they needed a little extra help. But my job, every shift they give one person the job of operating the door. And if it's your first night, sometimes you get that job. And it's heartbreaking, because basically you have to be the one, right? You have to be the one to tell the people that we're up to capacity, and you have to turn them away. So you give them whatever you have, and which usually meant that we'd give them a blanket, or we would give them a hand warmer if we had them, and then sometimes hand sanitizer. And thanks, Stephen. I appreciate that. Debbie also. Thank you very much, guys. But the hand sanitizer, I came to find out, they weren't really using for washing their hands. They're using it to light it on fire so that they can keep warm around it. They would huddle up. They would get a group of them together. Wendy, who's one of the people who works with Carl at the group there. I don't know if she works. I think she works for Second and Second, but she might actually work. She might be one of the council members. Hey, Coach, at Utah and Sheltered. But anyway, she posted a picture of this. I mean, I broke down in tears right as I saw it. This group of people had gathered around. They'd taken this hand sanitizer, squirted it out in a puddle in the middle of them, and then blocked the wind with their bodies and with their blankets. And then they'd light it on fire and then like warm their hands around it. It's like, oh my gosh, and it's cold out there, man. It got cold out there. I think they're actually code blue tonight. I haven't checked, but I tell you, while I was out there earlier, with the wind blowing, fuck me. So yeah. Thanks, you guys. I love that little symbol you got added in there. I don't know what that is, but it's cool. It looks just like the sigil. It looks a lot like it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I wanted to show you guys. So if you do go to the conversion tab, let me say, like if you scroll through, you can read the story of who is Korihor. And then you read this little letter that I've written. And then you decide, hey, I want to start my journey. You click start your journey. And then it takes you to this page. Oh, why did it just load that? Oh, it shouldn't do that. I guess I got some work to do. It should load this page, and you'll see that the first discussion is our mini sermon, We're Going Home. And you can click on that, and you can listen. We're Going Home, my first sermon. I want to tell you the story of the Korihor sigil, or the Koaz. That's the symbol of the Church of Korihor. Now, we're a church for godless people, so it's probably no surprise that this story, it's kind of geeky. So yeah, so you watch that. Then the second video here, which you're going to notice, it says, okay, this video isn't done yet, but stay tuned. I'm going as fast as I can, you guys. Then little information about like what does it cost. Then the orders of Korohorism haven't even started this video, but basically this is where you're going to be able to get a brief rundown on what is the difference between luminaries and heralds, what is the difference between becoming a fellow with the fellowship versus just becoming a contributor. All that's going to be laid out in that video. Then questions about, do I have to join in order to be ordained? Not as a luminary, our order of missionaries. So basically anybody can become a luminary with the Church of Korihor. We do still ask you to become a contributor for $2 a month first, but you don't have to join our fellowship to become ordained at this point until they make us do that, until they make us do it. Then it shows you the actual oath of reason, which is what I have taken, and so has Jenny, and so has our friend Jules. I don't know if Jules has gone to bed yet. Thank you, Debbie. I don't think that she's, well, I mean, if you twist my arm, I like it. Then we have our frequently asked questions about the Church of Korihor. I should update that. I haven't updated that since I started this church. And then your next step, and then you click on that and say, take the oath. And it should take you to a page where it says, hey, you're not logged in, and so you just click sign up, and then you go from there. Anyways, that is how it should work. That should work. Somebody let me know if that doesn't work. I really ought to just put a button on the front page that says, I really ought to put a button on the front page that just says, become a contributor. But in any event, but for future reference, to make it easy, if anytime you guys want to, if you just want to support us and give to the missions and to the heraldry to help us to promote the Herald's work and to promote videos like these, you just come to the front page and click donate to save lives. Oh, wait, no, not that one. Please donate to support all of our ongoing campaigns. This button here, bring a message of hope and reason to 100 people per month. If you give 10, we ask people to give $10 a month to commit to $10 a month, or you can, you click on that and it should give you a link to, it should give you a page. That's not showing you that page, is it? Hold on. Let me do this right. I can do this right. Stop screen. Share screen. Show the entire screen. If you guys see something, don't say something. Ta-da! Okay, got it. Hello. There. When you click on this, it'll take you to a Zephy page. Can't believe I didn't think of that before to show that. Okay. And it'll take you to the Zephy page. You can make a one-time donation, monthly donation. You can choose one of these suggested donations, or you can put in any amount. Then when you're done, you put in your card information. You can, there should be a box that comes up here in this space. That is the box where it says, hey, this is how much we're going to add as your donation to Zephy to help us defray the cost of paying the fees for all these nonprofits. And that's the thing that you can delete it. You don't have to pay that. But if you do, we'd appreciate it because, Zephy, they're doing good work. They're helping us out here. So, yeah, you can text it in any program. Oh, that's fun. Well, that's neat. I'll have to do that. Yeah. So yeah, the story of the Cora Horse Sigil. I actually drew that symbol up there, and yeah. Anyways, it's in the video. It's a fun one. It has to do with Apollo 13. I love everything to do with the Apollo space program, even though I'm probably toxic for that. So yeah, man, I've had a good time talking to you guys. We had Jenny on. Those of you who missed it, I definitely would go and enjoy that. I had a great conversation with Jenny. We talked about why, what is atheism? What are the common things why people, everybody knows what atheism is, I think. But what are some of the common concerns people have about atheism? And why it is that we think we can do better as Cora Horrors. Because frankly, we're basically these trying to be post-toxic atheists. We're trying to be atheists who are doing something constructive, not just tearing other people down, but making something new. We're kind of sucking at it in some ways. But as you guys have seen in the very generous comments from our friends here in the live, we're kind of not sucking at it right now. And it's kind of surprising that out of all of us right now, because like our Operation Rapture 2025, we haven't raised a lot. To be honest with you, we've only gotten enough fabric from our donations to make 15 blankets. The good news is, even here at the little atheist church of Cora, we got good news, man. We got a gospel. And so I got to tell you guys the story. And some of you who were here for Sunday sermon, this is going to be maybe a repeat. But my flesh and blood sister, Nikki, who is a luminary with the Church of Cora, soon to be ordained as soon as we figure out what that looks like. She lives down in St. George. I live up here in Utah County. And she got so connected when she discovered that her brother started a church. Like my atheist brother started a church. And she started attending godless sermons, which we're up to 11 this Sunday. And she caught onto it, even though she's kind of like a soft agnostic now, which is cool. We take agnostics. We take godless people. If you want to come into the church, if you want to be a part of the church, we'll take agnostics and atheists and apatheists or whatever you got. You just got to swear that you're going to pursue the light of reason and not God's, and then you can become a member. But my sister, I will do it. I will come up with some better ways. That's good feedback, Stephen. I'll come up with a better way. I'll make it easier. But my sister joined up, and just with the mission, she hasn't taken the oath of reason yet. And I love to brag on my sister. My sister's really big in the drag queen community. She's an AFAB. She's assigned female at birth, but but she has a daughter who is trans, and started to make connections with drag queens at pride events. And these drag queens found out that my sister makes like vinyl cut figures. Cool. Hey, Stephen, if we're losing you, you stuck with us through the evening, man. I really do appreciate it. I hope you'll come back. We're doing another live broadcast on Saturday, I think, if we can get Jules and Nikki scheduled. We're going to do our first Luminary Council, where we're going to talk about training up on how to organize events and missions for the church. So if people want to be here for that, I don't know what time it's going to be yet. I haven't even talked to Jules about it. We've been talking about it. But Nikki's going to be there. So yeah, on Saturday, maybe, hopefully, but otherwise, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We do godless sermons, and we might have a guest sermonizer this week. If not, it will either be Jenny or it'll be me. I have one already. I have two sermons already in the hopper, and I've been having but I've had other people champing at the bit to come out and do guest sermons. So I'm giving some preference because we need the most beautiful thing. I'm reading, Stephen. I'm reading. Good, keep going. The most beautiful thing for me about this church that I never saw coming, was the lead role that women have played in it, including a trans woman who is just remarkable, Jules Del Sol. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see it. If you go and watch the Godless Sermon on our live tab, I want to say it's 4, the meaning of arrow in our lives. She told me, she contacted me. She reached out to me after I came onto one of her lives and said, "Oh, hey, I'm the Church of Korihor." She's an ex-Mormon. And she's like, after hearing just a little bit about us and then watching my sermon, not the shortened sermon that I was just showing you, but the whole Godless Sermon, the first Godless Sermon, she said, "Yeah, I want to join. I'm in. I'm a Korihor for life." And she joined. And then she gave a Godless Sermon. And she came to me and she said, what do you want me to talk about? Because, we used to be Mormons. And in Mormonism, the bishop tells you what to sermonize about, what to give your talk on. And I said, yeah, we don't do that anymore. That you speak as you are moved to speak about what you want to speak about. The only thing I ask is that you let me know ahead of time what you're going to do so I can make up the thumbnail to put on YouTube. And that's it. And I say, look, how long is it? How long can you go? 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Go. If it's as long as it's good, sermonize, speak from the heart, and something that's really important to you, right? Cool. I love that, Stephen. So yeah. So Jules' sermon was great. We're going to have her again week after next. She's coming back to do another one. So it's going to be great. Yeah, that's right. It's moved by that spirit within, the spirit of the movement. All right, you guys, I better go and check on these kids, but I sure love having you guys here. Should we do a closing hymn? Have we got any votes in our active comment takers here, our commenters for a popular hymn of the Church of Korihor? Remember that on the list is our newest one of available ones, which is Frydenka. But of course, we also have Lick My Cupcake. We have More Money Than God. We have Like Korihor, Oh Korihor. We're Going Home. Got one vote for Lick My Cupcake. Who else wants to do that? Get that sexual healing. Do we need more? Do we need more like that? That sexual healing. Sexual healing. Going once. Going twice. I do love me some Lick My Cupcake. I love your faces. Thank you very much for being here and for lingering with me. You know that, I wouldn't have a church without you guys. I'd just be sitting here talking to myself. So it'd be just like all of the last 45 years of my life. That's my girl right there, Jules. I hope you heard some of the beautiful things I said about you. And I will see you guys on maybe Saturday and definitely Sunday morning.
Gum stuck to my shoe, heavy petting in the neon hue, cracked vase on the kitchen floor. I get what I want, then I want more. Soaking in the bathtub fizz, the way you look at me is a quiz. Hair teased high like a wild storm, in your arms I feel so warm. Lick my cupcake, sweet sensation, it's a sugar-coated invitation. Don't you know it's such a sin when you don't dig in? Ripped tights and a leather jacket, got a secret, can you hack it? Lights blur as we drive fast, make this moment last and last. Pink lipstick on your collar screen, we make a pretty reckless team. 80s music in the air, nobody else can compare. Lick my cupcake, sweet sensation, it's a sugar-coated invitation. Don't you know it's such a sin when you don't dig in? When you don't dig in.
Hey, Linger Longerers. Yeah, by the way, those of you who are still here, which is pretty much all of you, I am I am remiss to have forgotten. I will be on Cultural Hall tomorrow, and me and Culture are gonna hang out. It's his birthday. It's his channel birthday. He's 3 years old. So yeah, tomorrow. We'll do another one because I can't get enough. Just because I'm not complete until I've listened to More Money Than God at least once.
We built this hall with borrowed bills, wrote these songs on broken windowsills. Our altar's made of old tin foil, a godless church built on digital soil. But if the poor church mice who passed those plates woke up with a Robin Hoods in their face, we'd rob St. Peter right down to the floor. Finally make their God stand for something more. Oh, we'd fleece Mammon's coffers, their starving flock to feed, send them back to Jesus without their means. So those Judas steeples into unholy sod, at last we'd have more money than God. If Uncle Sam had their money, he could feed the folks they don't. But godly men get elected so that they won't. While they dance round the mountain with their golden calf, will cast their tablets down on Yahweh's behalf. When saints who pay to pray in their pews look to Korah or get some good news. Oh, we'd fleece Mammon's coffers, their starving flock to feed, send them back to Jesus without their means. So those Judas steeples into unholy sod, at last we'd have more money than God. Their golden gates won't let us in, nor the widows might redeem their sins. their souls with earth,